No reason to act surprised. I am the Shinigami Ryuk. Judging by your laughter, you've already figured out that what you have is no ordinary notebook.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's saucy.
First day of Death Note was good. It's always on any first day of any animated project I've worked on. It's, you know, there's a bit of a rough start, and you sort of stumble through and find the voice and pick it back up from the audition, and then try and get a feel for what the whole picture's all about. But after the few hours we did this afternoon, it was a lot of fun. I started working in theater out of school, which is fantastic, and it allowed me to play lots of characters, which is what theater can do. And then I wanted to get into film. And I sort of started looking at animation and realizing that was this booming industry happening in Vancouver, and did a little bit of research about it and thought, I can do that. And then I went out to a couple of events and a large cattle call for a big production that was happening here about, I guess it was almost 14 years ago, and I landed one of the leads on a new G.I. Joe series, I think it was, and that was my first start at it, and it's been, you know, roller coaster ever since.
That notebook you found originally belonged to me, and since you're now using it, you're the one who only knows who ha la 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 la.
Well, voice acting I find to be way more freeing than acting on camera. On camera is, it's a whole different style of acting. I find on camera is very technical, like just so much involved with the makeup and the lighting. Voice acting be a lot like stage in that there's so much more freedom and so much more where the performer is allowed to play with things and come up with ideas and utilize, you know, some of their theatrical skills a lot more in animation.
Then why did you drop it in the first place? You even wrote down specific instructions, so don't try to tell me this was an accident.
You're asking me why? I did it because I was bored.
What's more challenging about voice acting is, even more so than stage, is what you have to do with your voice and be able to do with your voice, because you not only have to come up with completely different and original characters, sometimes something you'd never play on stage or on camera, from, you know, teenage voices, and I wouldn't be cast as a teenager in an on-stage production, but I may in animation, and then I wouldn't be cast as a probably grizzled old man on stage, but I can do that in animation. So obviously what you have to do with your voice is much more difficult. And also in animation, there's a lot of play that happens with the sound effects that you do as you're falling down the stairs now, or you're running and being chased, but you can't move from where the microphone is right here, but you still have to find a way to get the sound of panic and stress and running in the body and portray that message. But usually I'll just I'll come up with, you know, the acting is first, and then I'll start to find play with what would be scary, or what would be, you know, meaner, what would be more ominous, what would be more playful, and go from there.
Humans are so much fun.
You still have to be able to say a line, and you can't really be eating an apple, because in animation, you know, especially Ryuk's character, he, you know, takes up that big bite and swallows a whole apple. You have to make up a sound for what's that going to sound like, right? And how's that, you know, make munching noises when there's nothing in your mouth, and swallowing, and then come up with a line right away as if you just have a bunch of food in your mouth.
Hey, Light. I'm talking to you. Sorry, he does something. He does this weird pause. Let me watch it one more time.
Sometimes those are the best parts. Is not the long, you know, drawn out sections of dialogue, but the action sequences and you know, montages where there's eating or you know, yelling and screaming and fighting involved can be some of the best stuff. As soon as I saw Ryuk, I was like, whoa, very different than anything I'd seen. And I thought, oh, first thing I thought, he's going to be evil and really, you know, nasty voice, which I love doing those as well. And then when I read the outline, I went, oh, it's much more playful, and he's bored, and he's just there to sort of stir the pot a little bit. And I went, that's even a more interesting take. So I just took both those things and and put something together pretty quick because I hadn't planned it at all. I showed up for my time slot for my audition and then saw him and went, "Can I read this?" and came up with something right away.
This is all so ridiculous. This world is rotting.
Sold.
Brian, I think he's a great choice for this character. You know, it's not a natural character, so how do you voice that character? Well, you don't want to force a voice because that's not gonna, you're not gonna want to hear that for however many episodes. You want something that sounds real for the character, and I think the voice he's doing is just, it's believable, it works, it's not forced, it's got character and range to it. That's important.
He's there for a reason, as a bit of the puppet master and also the jester as well, that he has to, you know, he appears to, and he probably brings humor to scenarios that can be extremely, you know, devastating. How can he find a way to enjoy this?
And I think he's a good foil to Brad as Light. They're already where I think we're seeing a good dynamic between the two of them, which is, I mean, that's what you want to end up with. But if you can get that right from the beginning, right from the, you know, episode 1, that's perfect. That's money in the bank.
In other words, the notebook is now yours.
This is mine?
If you don't want it, just give it to someone else. But if you give it away, I'd have no choice but to erase your memories of the notebook.
So then, you're saying I can use the death...
What, are you deaf? Yes.
You know, it's tough not working sometimes on these shows when you don't get to work with other performers. It's nice, actually, when, like Brad Swale had been in before me, so I could actually hear some of his reads previous to mine, because that's going to be obviously a lot of interaction between those two characters. So that was nice to hear, you know, where he was placing his character and the vulnerability that was there and the feel that was coming from him.
I think he's enjoying the part and he's doing a really good job. Brian is one of those voice actors. He has a real range of voices. You know, he can do really high, squeaky, goofy voices and low, deep, and he can do really good natural reads. He's really good at that sort of, you know, the steely-eyed tough guy.
I didn't choose you. Don't you see this is just all an accident? We've got a problem here.
Well, as a voice director, Carl is, I'd say, one of the best in the whole city. And Vancouver is a huge industry for animation, probably one of the top 3 in North America.
What's the point of doing that?
It's only a matter of time.
Do that, put a bit more question mark on it.
Sure.
And he really knows what actors want to hear. He doesn't read the lines for you and say, do it like this, or spell it all out for you. He always lets you find what's going on.
What's the point of doing that?
It's only a matter of time.
That's nice.
Is the whole thing in my head?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this is like, oh, now I'm not bored anymore. I've got one.
To yourself,
Yeah.
but to keep
You know, he can joke and keep it like you're standing still in a tiny booth, and, you know, for some people it probably can get monotonous. But he finds a way that, you know, before you know it, 4 hours, 5 hours, it's done. I enjoy it, and Carl makes it a lot of fun.
It's just as I thought. Humans are so interesting.
Does that work? Really? Yeah.
At first, I wrote the names of the worst criminals I could think of, like I was cleaning up the world one name at a time.
Giving Light this kind of power, he's like a superhero, really. At least that's what the first thing I thought, wow, what power. And nobody else has that kind of power. Even great leaders don't really have that kind of power to just point at anyone. Really, it's godlike, and, you know, there's no one closer than, really, that kids could relate to than superheroes. And superheroes are extremely popular because they can do things that nobody else can do. You know, he can, you know, become steel. He can turn himself into fire. But this guy can write a name and kill somebody.
And I will become the god of this new world.